Wow, I've never really thought about it, laundry in that way. Like, how far do you have to walk to do your laundry? I mean, like, laundry is just something we rarely even give any thought to because it's just something that's there, and clean laundry is what we always have access to.
But when your washing machine or dryer breaks down, what happened to me lately, you have no choice but to walk to the clothesless laundromat. And that's what happened to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've literally never gone to a laundromat except when I'm traveling. I've always had a laundry in my house. And our guest today, Lucas, and his business partner, they took this simple idea of access to clean laundry and turned it into a amazing charity. Orange Sky Laundry has really taken off really quickly all over Australia. And they're so young. Like they started this at age 20, and it made me sort of go, huh, what had I achieved at age 20? I will tell you what I had achieved, and it was starting my own charity. But Lucas made me feel a little bit better when he told us about their first night on the street where their equipment kind of blew up.
Oh, that, yeah, he wasn't quite sure on how to use the washing machine and dryer. And that made me feel a lot better about what happened to me last week, which was my first week of teaching. And as a lot of people know, I'm not exactly a tech buff. So I was thinking something happened. So something happened with the audio, and just a very loud video started to play, and I was thinking, where is it coming from? I was pushing every button, and it ended up that it was just a glitch with the audio next door. But I can really relate to the fact that, these things happen when you start, and you just have to have a laugh, not take life too seriously, and just keep moving forward.
I actually just have a visual of Mel like just slamming her hands on the keyboard, being like, I have no idea.
Yep.
But honestly, like the amount of times that I've almost blown something up or figuratively and literally are probably a little bit too many to count. So we might just leave it at that.
Welcome to The Human Factor, the show where we explore social change through the eyes of social entrepreneur and nonprofit advocates. My name is Melanie Roussin, her name is Erin McCabe, and we are your hosts.
Today, we talk to Lucas, one of the 2015 Young Australians of the Year and one of the two driving forces behind Orange Sky Laundry. Perhaps you've heard of them. They're the world's first free mobile laundry service for the homeless.
Let's start the show. So, hi. People know you as the 2015 Young Australian of the Year, and obviously the spokespeople for homelessness in Australia. But how would you describe yourself?
I think I'd describe myself and Nic as well, my co-founder, just as two ordinary blokes from Brisbane who 21 months ago had a really crazy idea to put washing machines and dryers in the back of an old van and drive around and wash people's clothes for free. And really what we've been since that time is very reactive to people wanting to support us. So that simple idea 21 months ago has quickly grown and scaled to 10 vans across Australia now, and helping countless people every single week. So I'd just describe myself as an ordinary bloke, and I know Nic would as the same, who had a crazy idea and made it happen.
Love it.
And so I've seen on your Facebook that you guys have spent the last week on the road actually delivering your latest van to Hobart. And so obviously that's probably been not quite a typical sort of day. So what would a typical day at Orange Sky Laundry headquarters look like for you?
One thing that keeps us entertained and really motivated is that every single day is so different. And really, for Nic and I, we're learning so much every day. So a typical day might start at 6 a.m. out with one of our vans here in Brisbane and talking to people, doing some washing and really getting some awesome experience and awesome, I suppose, lessons and just having really positive conversations on the streets of Brisbane with some of our homeless friends. And then it might mean we go to HQ and we start we might have a van there that we're tinkering with and playing around with it and really developing for the next rollout, or meeting with sponsors or catching up with our team here in Brisbane and motivating them and keeping them going. And I might finish up again out on the van. Our vans go out. Some start at 6 a.m. and finish at midnight and everything in between. So was a really nice mix and opportunity to do what we started, which was to be out on the streets talking to people and washing clothes.
Oh, that's fantastic. And Orange Sky Laundry is obviously Australia-wide, but it is also a world-first initiative. So what I'm wondering is, what was it that caused you to recognize this gap in homelessness services in Australia? And also, how did the laundry idea first come about?
Nic and our eyes were open to homelessness at such an early age. We were lucky enough throughout high school to participate in food vans and outreach programs with the homeless, and it was something that we recognised very early on as something very rewarding to us and to our mates as volunteers, but also being in communities where people are most comfortable can have a big impact. So we really missed that opportunity to volunteer after we left school. Wanted to give us and our mates that opportunity again. So we toyed around with the idea of a food van, and then sort of toyed around with a few different ideas, and eventually thought, well, laundry could be pretty cool. Let's give it a crack, and convince some people to give us some washing machines, prototype the first van, and then we hit the streets of Brisbane, and it's really, really grown from there. So I suppose it was through having our eyes open to the issue at such an early age. Every single night in Australia, there's 105,000 Australians who find themselves homeless. So, we wanted to do our little bit for that community, but really being, I suppose, impacted by the fact that just up the road from where we lived, from where we went to school, there were people sleeping in parks doing it really tough, and we just want to do a bit for them.
Excellent. And so tell us, about the first night you actually went out with the van. What were some of the reactions you guys got?
Funny story is the first time we took the van out, we're a bit unsure of how to use the washing machines, but we had the power, we plugged it all in, and as we clicked start on both the washing machines, they both went sort of poof and went, I suppose, blew up. So we had to go back to our sponsors and get them to fix up those washing machines, which we were lucky enough to have some really awesome sponsors on board to make that happen. But that was, I suppose, the first false start. And after that, we the next week, after we had all the machines set up again, we were lucky enough to have the washing machines on the streets, and went out and I suppose not too many people knew that we were coming. We had chatted to a few of our homeless friends on the street and let them know that something we're thinking about. They were really keen for the idea, but not too many people knew. The food van that we're working alongside didn't know about it. So we just rocked up in our bright orange van and with washing machines in it. People were a bit, I suppose, perplexed to start with and potentially a bit hesitant. But what we did over that first few minutes was say, come check out the van. It's pretty cool. We've got washing machines here, dryers here. A gentleman by the name of Jordan then sort of said, I got a couple of T-shirts in my backpack. Do you reckon we can give them a wash? I was like, mate, first ever wash, let's make it happen. Not too sure, you can be the test dummy, so to speak, and we'll give it a crack. And so Chuck Jordan's washing in the machine, and what unfolded over the next hour or so, we didn't realise that laundry took so long. So for Jordan and I, we just had a really awesome chat, and I found out Jordan went to school just up the road from me. He, studied the same degree as me at uni. He worked as an engineer in practice for 5 years until Jordan's life took a bit of a turn. He had a few bad decisions, but a few things that didn't go his way as well, and found himself sleeping on the streets of Brisbane. It really illustrated for me from day one the importance of that conversation, not only for our homeless friends, but for us as well and as volunteers. But also, I suppose, something we'd stumbled on, which is really, really special.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And so I wonder, what was the next step that actually went from you and Nic, like in a van having a chat with Jordan, to actually being a full-blown service that is, quite well known now?
Yeah, well, when we started, we started as a test project. So we sort of registered a business name and started getting a bit of a website together. Didn't really start the charitable process yet because we weren't sure if it was going to work or if people would use it, if people would use the washing machines. So we really started that process alongside operating the van. And once we realised we had stumbled on something that could help a lot of people, but also connect the community, we really wanted to take that next step, I suppose. So we started the charitable process, which takes a long time, and
it does.
And also the sort of couple of months that we operated to start with, it was just Nic and I and a few of our really close mates who, took ownership on operating the van, but we didn't want to, throw volunteers under the bus, so to speak, operating the van if they didn't know how to do it. So we really wanted to be in control of that to start with. And then around probably 2 or 3 months into operation, we started bringing out volunteers slowly. I still remember it was a big day, the first day, that we handed the van off to someone else who we didn't know and who was a volunteer, to operate it and go from there. So that was, pretty cool experience.
So was that specific moment, I suppose, where you thought, oh my God, I'm onto something here? Was that the specific moment? So 2-3 months down the track?
I think there's been moments all the way along. I think there's been moments all the way along that we, have realised that we stumbled on something. During our first week of washing clothes, we put a few photos up on social media, just fun photos of the build, and someone stole them off our Facebook and chucked them up on Reddit. And overnight we had over 1 million clicks on Reddit and 2,000 donations from 24 countries around the world. And all these people from all around the world really believing in two random blokes from Brizzy was probably the first time that we realised, this is something that a lot of people can get behind. We'd convinced a few people, but a lot of people had been saying, it's never going to work, it's stupid, machines won't work, no one will use it. But we really, I suppose that was the first time we had a lot of public belief behind us. And again, with that came a lot of volunteer applications. And a few months later, when we decided to start rolling out volunteers, we had a really nice base of people who were already believing in it and who were already going on with it. The guy who actually took the van out for the first time, 20 months ago, still volunteers us every Tuesday today. So that really tangible impact and over 600 volunteers now around Australia, and every single one of those believe in what we're doing and really are very generous with their time and giving it to us every single week.
These volunteers are really what can help you. So one of my questions is actually, what you've clearly been successful into harnessing the power of volunteer, and I suppose I wonder, how do you keep these 600 plus volunteer Australia wide engaged in the cause? I mean, there's a bit of an army of sport people there for you. How do you keep them engaged?
One big thing for us is really setting an expectation from the start and saying, what we believe in at Orange Skies, being reliable and being responsive. So having someone come down once and then never come back again doesn't have an impact on our service, on our other volunteers, or on our homeless friends. We really ask for a fortnightly or a weekly commitment from our volunteers to continue those relationships. And there's so many awesome stories that come out of that. But also, I suppose, second to that, or probably the most important thing, is we could do whatever we want to thank our volunteers. We could give them vouchers or gifts or hoodies and T-shirts and caps or whatever. But the best thanks that they're ever going to get, and the most rewarding experience they're going to get, is when they hand someone back their clothes after they've just come fresh out of the dryer on a cold night in Melbourne or wherever, and they get a big thanks and a smile. So I think that's the special thing about it, is really being on the coalface, seeing it impact firsthand, and having that hands-on experience.
I think you guys have got a really unique volunteering product insofar as that people can immediately see the impact that their time has given someone, which is not every charitable organisation can give that to their volunteers.
Definitely, and we talk about, it's one of the most relaxed volunteering experience you'll ever have. It takes 2 minutes to set up the van. It takes 30 seconds to chuck some washing in the washing machine, and then it's an hour to have a chat. So really relaxed and really rewarding experience.
And so you've actually got 50,000 followers on Facebook. That's actually a following that, a lot of commercial organisations would probably be really jealous of. And I think just in the short time I've been following you guys, you are great examples of how to use social media to engage not only your volunteers, but also supporters. So what tips do you have for creating engaging social media content to engage people in your cause?
I think the biggest thing is, what we're passionate about, and there's tons of studies out there, is that stories sell, and what we're passionate about is not just about the Nic and Lucas show or the Orange Sky Laundry show. It's about the people that we help, and we're always going to be biased to how good our service is, but when you hear it from someone who uses the service, that's a much more powerful message. So sharing stories on Facebook, at least once a week, we'll put someone up who we've washed clothes for that week or has had a chat with one of our volunteers and wanted to spruik it, I suppose. And that's something we're really passionate about, is those stories and humanising homelessness, which can be a bit stigmatised a lot of the time. So challenging some of those stereotypes is really important to us. And also I think sticking to our guns. Like, we have lots of organisations coming to us and saying, we want to leverage off your social media to put this stuff out there. And push our own agendas on that. But what we're really passionate about is keeping that really in-house and keeping that to message. Since day one, it's always been the same. It's never been, look how cool this van is. It's got washing machines and dryers. It's, meet Grant. Grant lives in this part of Brisbane, and he this week was for the first time ever able to wash and dry his clothes for free. And he says, thanks so much for washing my clothes. And really that story is much more powerful than, two blokes and a van with washing machines in it. The story of someone that's helping is much more powerful.
And are people on the street quite receptive to having their stories shared in that way?
I suppose we're very conscious of that, and there is definitely, I suppose, a reluctance from some people too. But also, what we talk about is people on the streets aren't our clients or customers or patrons; they're our friends. So that friendship might be built up over a year, 2 years, one day. So we really ask. It's almost like posting a photo of a friend, essentially. So we're not. We make sure they're comfortable with having their photo taken and their story shared, and just say, it's to show some of our supporters and people who help make this happen. And everyone on our Facebook is very happy to be part of that.
Excellent. And speaking of your supporters, one of the things that I really loved about your guys' website is not only the stories, but I guess, to use an industry term, the dollar handles that you guys have, that $6 can not just like wash someone's clothes, but can ensure that they're in clean, warm clothes for the night and one little bit more comfortable. And so what I was wondering, because I'm a fundraiser, is what is your main source of income? Is it through individual gifts?
It's sort of, we're pretty lucky at the moment to have a pretty nice spread of donors at the moment. We've got
the dream.
Everyday mum and dad who are believing in us and believing in our story, I suppose. And then we've got corporate supporters as well, and then also philanthropic support. So we talk a lot about that Orange Sky Laundry currency, which is $6 for a wash, which is a really tangible thing that anyone can get involved with. And whether it's a school doing a fundraiser and they want to raise $600 for 100 washes, or if it's a grandma who wants to give us $6 a month for the year, people can really engage in that on so many different levels. So we're really, really lucky. We've got an awesome team behind us, and that's why sharing those stories are so important. Is that people can directly engage with someone that they've paid for their washes.
Definitely. I really like the structure of the conversation, because also this is what you guys are doing. It's beyond just washing the clothes. It's also to have this conversation.
I suppose what it's sort of born out of necessity. It's a real mutual respect that our homeless friends are there. They're waiting for their washing. They're not going to run away. Our volunteers there, the band's there. They're not going to run away either. So what can we do to pass the time? We can really have an awesome conversation. And we talk about that conversation. We're not trying to fix anything or preach anything or sell anything. We're really just there to provide a platform to have positive and genuine conversations. And on the streets, potentially there is a bit of negativity that gets around, and an injection of positivity from our volunteers can have a big impact. But also just that friendship build up over weeks. A few weeks ago, we were down in Sydney, and we had a football team washing clothes with us who do it every year as part of their team building. And just before we went down there, I said to the footy players, who are all like representative players, they said they were bigwigs in the footy game, and I said, "Oh, boys, who wants to drive the van?" They all shot their hands up. I threw the keys to them, and two of the guys jumped in the van, big footy players, and they drove down to Woolloomooloo, where we stop on a Tuesday night. And as they pulled up, wound the windows down, famous rugby players maybe trying to think they're going to get a tunnel of honour or something, and a few of our homeless friends poked their head in the door and said, "You're not Jess and Maz. We're our Tuesday night volunteers." So I think, which really reiterated to me the importance of that relationship, and how they don't care. There was famous footy players; they just wanted to see their regular volunteers. So those relationships are really important, and those friendships really do build strongly over months.
And I actually saw some team members of yours speak at a Funding Network event in Brisbane, and you guys were talking about one of the program that you were asking for funding was to help roll out training programs for people who are homeless to actually be employed. Can you tell us a little bit more about that program?
Definitely, and that's one thing is we never want to be sitting on our laurels, so to speak. We always want to be evolving and pushing ourselves to be better. So again, how can we make use of that 1 hour time that we are having a chat at the moment more efficiently. We can deliver training programs. We can teach people might be how to use our van or how to get a white card for a construction site. Really being more efficient with that time. So at the moment here in Brisbane, we wash with 3 commercial contracts with local cafes and a hospital, where we wash and dry their clothes commercially every week for money. But we also train and employ people who use our service during the week to run that. So really, that social enterprise wing, building that up is the next big side of our growth plans, I suppose. And once we get that right here in Brisbane, we can scale it times 10, which is so exciting at the moment. It's sort of 4 people on a fortnightly roster doing that. But, you times that by 10, you times that by 3 or 4 days a week, you start getting lots and lots of people who you can help through, giving them a training and employment opportunity just through our vans. Additionally, all our volunteer uniforms are all screen printed here in-house by people who use our service. So those, I suppose, being smart with how we can train and employ our homeless friends is the next big phase for us.
How do you guys decide where to go next? Because, it's not like homelessness is a problem just isolated to urban areas or, the East Coast. How do you decide where to strike next?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And we look for four key things when we're rolling out a new service. Firstly is that there's homeless friends to help in the area. And unfortunately, that's a reality in a lot of places around Australia. Secondly is that the service providers to work alongside. So all of our 10 vans across 66 locations here in Australia, we're always working alongside service providers. So your food vans, your drop-in centres, your healthcare centres, and we're always working alongside them. So we're not just washing clothes in a park by ourselves, and really building off the respect that they have in those communities is important to us. So homeless friends help service providers to work alongside. Thirdly is the community calling out for the service and saying that they're going to volunteer. So we are always logging expressions of interest on our website for people to volunteer, even if there's not a van in that area. But people who really want to get involved, we say, jump online, log your interest there. So once we have those first 3 things, then number 4 is funding. So it costs us $100,000 to put a new one of these vans on the road. And essentially we, as a team, really decide based on the first 3 things and the 4th thing, how we can get the new van on the road, how we make it happen, how we're going to pay for it, and who's going to run it are really contained in those key questions. So someone in Tasmania said, I want to put a van on the road down here, and then put up a significant amount of money to make that happen. We work with other sponsors to cover the rest of that cost. And then we already had a log of volunteers there who are keen to volunteer and make it happen down there. So we know the service providers to work with. We know there's people who need help down there, and we just made it happen.
Oh, great. Well, as a Young Australian of the Year, what message would you like to leave to young people who may be contemplating an idea for social change?
The biggest thing Nic and I talk about is really not ideas, it's concepts. So everyone can have awesome ideas and talk about them all day long, but really turning those ideas into concepts is where that power can happen, and where that story really becomes more powerful. Is that we didn't go out to people asking for money saying, we want to put a van on the road that's got 2 washing machines, 2 dryers, and wash people's clothes for free. We really said, let's make it happen. And then we say, look how well our Orange Scale Laundry van is going here in Brisbane. We're helping this many people a week, having this many hours of conversation, doing this many kilos of laundry. Let's put another van on the road. So really using not ideas but concepts to deliver stories and really selling it on that, but also knowing that really simple ideas can have a huge impact. For Nic and I, washing machines have been around forever. Vans have been around forever. We were just the 2 idiots who chucked them together and sort of made it happen. And but we realised very quickly that it can have a massive impact. And every week now, just under 6 tons of free laundry around Australia and 1,200 hours of really positive and genuine chats every single week. We know it's having a huge impact.
That's a great message to be leaving our listener with, definitely. And so my question to you is, it's a bit of a shout out, I suppose. So if people want to connect with you or your work with Orange Sky Laundry, I suppose the best way is to follow you on Facebook or on your website?
Yeah, you really nailed it on the head there. orangeskalaundry.com.au and Facebook are the best ways to get in touch, and really 3 key ways that people can support us. First is by spreading that message of Orange Sky Laundry and homelessness. For Nic and I, if we didn't have our eyes open to this problem at an early age, we would never have sort of made that first step to make it happen. So really spreading awareness of homelessness. Secondly is through volunteering and helping us out on our vans all around Australia. And then third is financial support. So as you mentioned, $6 to wash and dry someone's clothes, all done through our website, and can have a huge impact on someone's life.
Thank you so much. That was so amazing. I'm feeling very inspired, and I feel like I want to go out and have a chat, have a conversation with someone on the street.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I like what you said, Erin, just then. I'm feeling very inspired to have a chat with people on the street. That's exactly how I felt. And our chat today was a very good reminder to stay connected to the people that we're trying to help, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I know I've been guilty of it, and I'm sure a lot of other people who work in the charity sector, that you can often sometimes, you're working so hard at what you need to get done that you can sometimes actually forget about the people that you're doing it for. But maybe it's because for Lucas and his business partner, Nic, it's still so fresh. I mean, they've only been doing this for 21 months.
Absolutely. And what I'm thinking, though, is that as Orange Sky Laundry continue to expand, they might not be able to keep going on the streets. Yet it has been a very important part of the success of Orange Sky Laundry. Would you say?
Yeah, totally.
And as you start, you do all these things that make you successful, but sometimes once you're successful, you just stop. And so that's really no different than a marriage where you've got to keep working at it.
Absolutely. Funny you mentioned marriage, Mel. Like, I've just come from my meeting with my celebrant for our wedding in October. But I think that's really interesting, and I think that's probably something a lot of people, as their charities grow, have to come to grips with as well, is the idea that the things that they did perhaps out of necessity, because there was no one else to do it, they have to kind of stop doing it, much like going out on the streets for these guys. But one thing I actually see in a theme through pretty much all of the people in our launch series is the power of stories, the power of storytelling. But I found what Lucas said really interesting, that this is not the Nic and Lucas show. This is a story about our friends on the streets. And I actually find that really interesting because when you look at the media coverage around Orange Sky Laundry, the media just want to talk about them. They want to talk about these two young guys. Yet all they want to do is actually talk about their friends on the street.
Yes, very true. But I think that's exactly why everybody wants to know their story as well. I mean, who are these young, amazing boys who are changing the face of homelessness in Australia?
Yeah, I feel bad for saying like boys, but
yes.
They're so young. They're so young. But what I was actually waiting for through the interview was that like strike of the match moment that sparked the flame as to where they were like, yes, homelessness is a problem and I am going to do something about it. It's a social issue. But in actual fact, it's something that sat in the background of their lives their entire adolescence. And so rather than it being like the strike of the match, we talk about the spark, it's actually been more like someone, one of those scoutmasters sitting with this stick, twiddling it to try and create fire. It was a much slower burn for them.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And I think sometimes social change is just entrenched in our lives. Most of the time it is. It's through our own experience that often we become aware of a cause that we want to be part of. And I think that was the first idea as well with our guest Emil in our first episode, that was advocating for sexual health and inclusiveness, because that was a very big part of his own journey as a gay man. And I think that that's something to take away. And also, one of the things that I've noticed Lucas talking about today was about people can have ideas all day, but what really creates an impact is actually how we turn that idea into a concept. And I really like that idea. And I like the fact that he talked about, it's about testing the concept. So, that's more my own take on it, but you can test the concept so then you can sell it. So you give people a product to look at. And I think that's more tangible even for your sponsor. And if it's not perfect, you can tell them that it's the early days, but it still gives them a taste of what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people can sometimes get bogged down by the idea of perfection and making sure their concept is, or idea, sorry, before it turns into a concept, into something that's perfect before they can actually run with it. But in actual fact, and I would say the progress of social change in the world has been because of people who just went, you know what, this isn't perfect, but it's going to make an impact, and so I'm going to do it. And it's also a way, if you're out there on the streets, or for lack of a better term in this respect, if you're out there on the streets delivering your service, people can build trust around that, and they can build knowledge, and they feel safe with your brand and also with your service delivery. At a really fundamental level, trust is so important. As something as silly and as free as podcasts, I have to listen to 2 to 3 episodes before I'll even hit the subscribe button to be like, yes, I'm committing to you, podcast, and that's free and literally this tiny little thing that takes up data on my phone.
Definitely. And because we talk about trust, I like also what he said about volunteer. And it's about, setting expectation with your volunteer right from the start. And I think, Erin, that was a really big part of the success that we had with our own volunteer, is that we set those expectations very early, and we ask of them that they do commit to a weekly or fortnightly commitment. Even if we were flexible with the hour, we just wanted that commitment from them.
Yeah, and I think I really liked Lucas's reasoning behind their way of why they set these such, strong expectations with their volunteers, is that people are more likely to commit to that. And once they understand what they're actually committing to, and people are more likely to feel comfortable in saying, yes, that is what I can commit to.
That's a very, very good point. And actually, you would wonder why someone would want to volunteer only one time. I mean, what's their motivation? I think if it's an event, for example, that might be different. So, we might be building capacity for our team. But sometimes people volunteer because they want a job, And I think that if that's their primary driver, they are often the wrong candidate. Would you say, Anne?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And I think that, Lucas talked about qualities that he was looking in volunteer, like reliable and responsible and able to commit. And I think these are very good takeaway for our audience working in that space.
Thank you so much for listening to The Human Factor today. If you've enjoyed the episode, please head over to iTunes and rate us. You would be surprised at the difference a positive rating makes. Also, you can head over to our Facebook page, The Human Factor, and hit like and join in the conversation. Please tell us what you thought about today's episode. And if you had thoughts or insights to add to anything that Lucas said, please do not hesitate in leaving us a comment.
Or tweet us at _Human Factor, or visit our website at humanfactor.com.au and leave us a voicemail or a message. Let us know what you think. This show is just one part of a community that wants to affect and grow social change. If you have a topic or a person for us to interview, please let us know. And if you need help to coach your team on how to build your tribe, email me at melanie@humanfactor.com.au.
Thanks so much for listening. You're all awesome. We'll see you next time.